Hospice care in the U.S. is provided anywhere a patient calls home. How does the hospice team coordinate care with other care providers? You're listening to Heartbeat from the Heart of Hospice. I'm Jerry Finter, here with Helen Bauer.
Whether you're a family caregiver or an end-of-life professional, we're here to enhance your hospice experience by connecting you with information you can use about end-of-life care. Because we know how busy life can get, Heartbeat is designed to give you helpful information in a bite-sized format.
At the Heart of Hospice, we're always looking to connect our listeners with resources and services that can enhance their hospice experience. If your company provides a service for hospice patients or hospice agencies, the Heart of Hospice would love to partner with you to expand your outreach. To discuss customized sponsorship options, send an email to host@theheartofhospice.com. You want your clients to have the best hospice experience possible, and the Heart of Hospice can help you make that happen. Now on to today's episode. According to the surveys, about 98% of hospice patients receive care in a setting outside of what we would call an inpatient unit.
Right. Whatever they call home.
Right, wherever they call home. And home can look like a lot of different things.
Right. Home is wherever the patient says it is.
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about the different kinds of places that a patient might call home.
Okay, so this is a big list.
It is.
A long-term care facility, which is a nursing home or a skilled facility, however you want to call it.
Okay.
An assisted living facility. A private home, a private residence or an apartment, a personal care home, a small home where they may care for 8 to 10 patients, 8 to 10 people, a group home, homeless shelters, and actually on the street as well.
I have heard of that. So what that means is that there are often other care providers that actually the hospice interdisciplinary team needs to coordinate with so that the patient gets quality care.
Sure. So like in a nursing home, there would be a whole team, a whole nursing staff. Plus they would have dietitians, they would have aides that work with them, they have social workers, they have activity directors. If your patient lives in a group home or a private care home, there are staff members there. There may be a director or an owner. Same thing for if a patient is living in a homeless shelter or is out on the street. They might have a caseworker or a social worker that works with them. And those are the folks, if the patient gives permission, that the hospice team would be talking with and coordinating with. Right.
So the hospice team members really should be in communication with the facility staff at every visit.
How often did you say that? Say that to me one more time.
Every visit.
Every single visit. So just the nurses?
Oh, no. That means everybody on the team, including social workers, chaplains, nurse practitioners, everybody.
Okay, so we're going to say this again because, boy, I think this may be on my pet peeves list. Every hospice team member should talk to or coordinate with a facility staff member at every single visit.
Absolutely. Which means you may have to actually be patient and wait for that staff member that you need to talk to. They may be busy with another patient.
Absolutely.
Another resident in the facility. So you may have to wait a little while to actually have their direct attention. But you need to do that.
There are a whole lot of reasons why that's important, okay? Because for nurses, we're coordinating care. We're getting updates. We're finding out if the patient has had a change in condition. We need to identify if there are any new needs. If there's a change in the wound, we coordinate with wound care nurses. For aides, they need to coordinate with staff members to find out whether there's been a bowel movement. When was the last bowel movement? Is there an issue with the catheter? And then Take it to the other disciplines, psychosocial. Has the patient had any visitors? Which is a huge issue, during 2020 and into 2021 with the pandemic restrictions.
Right.
What's the patient's mental and emotional status been like?
Yeah, and even for the chaplain who comes in, chaplain needs to ask, has this patient received a visit from clergy? Do we need to coordinate with the clergy to let them know?
Any signs of depression, things like that, anything that spiritual and psychosocial would deal with, those questions, you're supposed to be coordinating with the staff members there.
Right. And all of this is done so that nothing is dropped, nothing is missed. It prevents mistakes, prevents delays in care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the next communication task is to talk to that family. Jerry's laughing at me because this is also on the pet peeve list.
It is.
If you are one of the core team that is going into a facility, whatever type of facility that patient calls home, and making a visit, you should be talking with that family. Now, there are situations where that's not appropriate, right? If the patient hasn't given permission, if there is no family, right? Hopefully there's a guardian or somebody that you would be coordinating care with. But you need to be checking in with those family members and saying, hey, I made a visit today. This is what I see. How are you?
Right. So a reminder very quickly that our unit of care is who? Well,
patient.
Right.
And the family that the patient identifies as family.
Exactly. So the unit of care is who we are to, bring in and provide the care for. And that means not just the patient who's in a facility, but also the family. Even though they may not be present at the time, we're still obligated to at least reach out to them and provide care. I'm going to give you one example very quickly.
Okay.
A patient was in the facility, and I went to see the patient. The patient had Alzheimer's, so couldn't really communicate well with me, obviously. And I called the family, and I spoke to the daughter. And the daughter began telling me about a situation that was very problematic. And the situation was that the patient's husband had died a few months earlier. And when the daughter would go in to visit with the patient would say, "Where's my husband?" And the daughter would tell her, "Well, Dad died." And the patient would grieve. And of course, every time she went in, the patient didn't remember that her husband had died. And the daughter says, how do I keep from telling her the same thing over and over again? And so she had this issue that she didn't know how to resolve. And I was able to help her find some resolutions to the problem.
But if you hadn't contacted her, you would have never known about that. She
Right.
would have not probably reached out, right? It's our job, our responsibility to reach out to these family members. And some of our family members aren't even able to visit. Some of them are remote caregivers, even though they're close to this patient. They may live hundreds of miles away and they can't see. And so that update, you may be the only set of eyes. And with the restrictions on facilities, unless you're an actual care provider, there may not be any visits.
It becomes very important for us to communicate and keep those lines of communication open with the family.
We wanted to take a moment to remind you that the mission of the Heart of Hospice is to be an advocate for quality end-of-life care. One way we do that is by providing education and consulting for hospice and palliative care professionals. The leadership of the Heart of Hospice has over 20 years of combined hospice experience. We can provide training for your interdisciplinary team through webinars and virtual events on topics such as self-care and grief management for professionals, diversity, competency, and healthy boundaries, or a topic of your choice. If you need a speaker for a leadership or community event, please contact us at host@theheartofhospice.com. Now back to today's episode. There's another reason this is important. It's important to that facility staff. And you may think that that doesn't make any sense, right? They're just glad that you come and go and do your job for the hospice patient, right? Because that's not necessarily their skill set, right? They count on us to take care of those needs. But a lot of times, patients that are living in certain facilities, group homes, assisted livings, long-term care facilities, those patients have been there for quite a while. And that becomes like family.
It's true.
So it's also part of the job of the hospice staff to support the other care providers, the facility staff, to provide them with psychosocial and spiritual support and to encourage them and to provide bereavement support when the patient dies.
Right. Our chaplain team is often called on to help in situations like that. Maybe to even provide a memorial service at the facility for that patient, because the staff doesn't always get the opportunity to be at a funeral or memorial service. And so we bring something to them.
I think that's really meaningful and important to facility care providers, facility staff, because just like us, we go from patient to patient, and we may have one die under our care on our caseload, and then there's another patient that takes that place. It's the same way in a facility. They may have an empty bed where they have lost someone who they have cared for years, and then 2 days later, there's another person in that bed. It's a very difficult grief transition, and a lot of times what we do is we don't grieve. So that facility staff needs support as well. So to tap into my regulatory background, my compliance brain is kicking in.
Okay.
There's another reason why this type of communication with facility care providers is so important. It's really important to the hospice agency itself because family members get satisfaction surveys. I can only tell you the acronym. It's CAHPS. I can't remember all the words that it stands for at the moment, but it's a satisfaction survey. So those surveys ask several questions about communication. And what it does is reflect on how does a team talk to the family? How often? Was it confusing? And how the team talks to each other. Did you get mixed messages? Did you get one set of instructions from somebody else and another set of instructions from another one of the hospice team? And did you get conflicting information from the facility staff versus the hospice staff? So how are we talking to each other as hospice providers? How are we talking with other care providers? And then how are we talking with that family? So basically, communication is key.
Right. Communication certainly is the lifeblood of all the things that we do when it comes to a hospice patient. So we just want to remind everybody that communication is key. So if you're a family member, expect that your hospice team for your loved one should be calling you.
Yes, hold them accountable for this.
If they're not, call them and say, will you please call me after each visit?
Right. And I would recommend that you even say, I expect to hear from you. Set those expectations and those boundaries, because if that's not their practice, I will tell you that it should be.
Oh, it absolutely should be. And so if you're a hospice care provider, you need to make it a point to call the family and to work well with the care team at the facility where your patient resides.
And then, of course, document.
That's a given, right?
Sorry. It is, and yet we're still saying it, right?
Oh, yes, because we need to be reminded.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to Heartbeat from the Heart of Hospice. I'm Jerry Fenter here with Helen Bauer. Because we know your hospice journey is 24/7, you can always find us at theheartofhospice.com. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening and leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts.
To connect with us, you can send an email to host@theheartofhospice.com. You can also find us on social media. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.